Here's a practice method for jazz that helped me accumulate great progress in my playing. I've been using this method for over 3 years and I've experienced the most progress I've ever seen during my years of playing. Basically, I've seen 3 most crucial aspects that you need to cover when practicing jazz. Number 1, always ensure that you have exercises that help increase your technique. Number 2, always make sure that you have exercises that include cognitive playing. And what I mean by this is you want to have material that you practice that you can use in a song. This can be things like licks, phrases that have been transcribed, voicings, things like that. Essentially just material that you can use in real time. And number 3, well, I've learned that it's important to practice the skill of playing. So I always make sure that I'm playing some gigs within my city. If not, when I'm practicing at home, I think it's important that you exercise the muscle of playing from start to end without stopping and starting in between. So essentially, number 3 is just practice playing. By the way, there's a PDF attached that outlines all the exercises that I will now share in this video. I want to show you how to practice for jazz. And this method has really worked for me. As I said, I've been practicing this way for the past 3 years and I've seen a really big improvement in my own playing. The way in which I develop practice methods is sort of in reverse. The more you play, the more I back people up, the more I improvise in like the real world. I start to see where I fall short. And then I try to create exercises that remedy that. And these are some of the exercises that I'm going to include here today. So the first thing that I would do, put a metronome on, and I would first play the Bebop major scale. Now, of course, the Bebop major has passing step between 5 and 6. 5, sharp 5, 6. And now what you want to do next is do it as triplets. Da 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 da. Next thing that I would do is practice them as 8th notes. Now, if you notice, when you play them as quarter notes, it takes you to 1 octave. When you do triplets, it takes you to 3 octaves. And when you do it as 8th notes or quavers, it'll take you to 4 octaves. So that's a really good practice to sort of get yourself around the Bebop major scale. Now, if you want to get more in depth with major scales, especially as it relates to jazz, you'd want to do things like pivoting, as opposed to just playing them like straight up. You know, I'd want to do something like, if I'm on the 7th of F major, I would then want to go to the tonic. So then I'm on the 7th of chord 2, then 7th of chord 3, then 7th of chord 4. And this is really useful when I'm playing a tune. I could go even back to when Sunny Gets Blue. are some of the ways that you can practice major scales at this point, right? Practice them so that they are useful in a jazz context. You can sit and do this thing, even the pivoting, do it for all 12 exercises, and you'll call that your technique. But then you also want to practice something that you can use in real time. Right, so it's like you're killing two birds with one stone. Another way that I have found to be useful is practicing major diatonic sevenths. So the same way you understand major scales as chord 1, chord 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you can break that up as an exercise in your right hand. This way, when I have a song, I could not only the major scale, other scales that are pertinent in jazz. These two scales that I'm going to share with you are also useful in a contextual way when you're playing within a standard. This will be the half whole scale or the diminished scale. It's called half whole because if, for instance, you're starting on C, you're going to go a half step above, then you'll do a whole step above, then a half step, then whole, half, whole, half. By the way, diminished scales, typically you would use them over dominant chords. Diminished has minor third structures. Build minor third chord or build a diminished chord from C. Each dominant chord that you've built on C will use the same scale. You can start the scale on E flat, or you can start it on F sharp, or you can start it on A. So it'll work for C7, it'll work for E flat 7, it'll also work for G flat, and it'll work for A7. In fact, this is really cool when you idea to use when you have a dominant chord in a song. You can substitute it by like a dominant that's a third away. Let's say you have a major 2-5-1. So let's say you have G minor to C7, then F major. So I'll do C7, then I'll go to E flat, and then I'll do F major. So another useful scale is harmonic minor 5. If you think of Mixolydian in the major key, it's basically the fifth scale or mode in harmonic minor. So let's play C harmonic minor. And by the way, this harmonic minor scale and even the diminished scale you can practice as, you know, part of your technique. Do it in all 12 keys. It'll help build your finger strength as well. But again, the nice thing about these scales is that they also become practical in a playing context, and that's important when you choose your exercises, you know. So we have C harmonic minor, and the only thing we're going to do is we're going to play C harmonic minor but starting on 5. That's why it's called harmonic minor 5. The root and third and 7. And in my left hand I could just do, you know, an altered chord 5. I also like to put a passing step between 7 and 1. That's harmonic minor 5, and here it is in context. So if I play this tune, voicings. I'm going to share with you 2 licks here, which everything that you're seeing today, the PDF is going to be down below in the description, so do check it out. But power lick, taken from Ornithology. So I'll take that through all 12 keys. And this second line, this one is shorter than the first one. So I'm doing a 2-5 in the key of F major. So you can do something like. Practicing it down in whole tones. And I also put together some few pentatonic lines for you that you may want to check out. Essentially, I think more than just the lines, it's the idea, you know. And then voicings. Practicing the most basic and bare minimum standard jazz piano voicings is a really good place to start. For example, I usually like to play these drop to 9 voicings. So drop to 9 voicings are something that maybe you'd want to take up a few keys. So in a past video, I had talked about drop to 9 voicings, you know, in a more general sense. But when we delve into jazz, it's more typical that these voicings are within a 2-5-1, and that's probably a good way to practice it. So drop to voicing is basically, drop to 9 voicing is root 7, 3, 5 and 9 for the minor. And then when you move to dominant, pretty much the only thing you want to change is your left hand. So the left hand will go to C and E, and your right hand stays exactly the same. When you resolve to 1, you have the root 7, 3, 5, 9 as you had for G minor. And now with jazz chords, you always want to add tensions, especially for dominant chords. How about, the only thing I did was flatten the 5, which gives me a dominant 13, flat 9. Maybe I end on a 6 chord. Another voicing I found to be really useful, and I think that you should practice it as well for jazz. This one has really been nice for comping. This is an upper structure voicing. So again, I'll take a 2-5 and I'll do a root 3. In the right hand, I'll do 7, 3, 7, 9 and 5. And then for chord 5, these are really nice for comping. Again, I can add the flat 9 to this as well. One more voicing I really can't not talk about in this video are 4th voicings. For example, in a modal tune, you may need to use 4th voicings, and this is definitely a huge part of so-called jazz style. One thing I wanted to point out about 4th voicings, they can be built and are built off of modes. So most common is Dorian, Aeolian, but you know, I've always wondered, why do they have these so what voicings? Why do they have that major 3rd on top? Because if they're 4th voicings, surely they should and have parallel 4ths all the way up, you know, but instead they did. It actually sounds more melodic, and I've noticed that it's actually shaped around the -6 pentatonic. That's why they have. They use notes that belong to the minor 6 pentatonic. Of course, they mix it up with Dorian and Aeolian, as I have said. But I would practice it in this way. And you want to take it up through keys, you know. And then lastly, I would have to say an important thing when you are trying to improve your playing is to exercise the skill of playing. Now, in an earlier video, I had talked about this idea of playing or practicing playing. And there are two ways for me that I do this. The first one is by playing right while I'm in my practice session, but I will stop and start. I was working on this lick, let me see if I can put it in, then I'll stop and fix, and kind of like that. And then the other version of practicing playing is just to play without stopping, as if you're in like a live setting where you only have one chance to perform a song. And I'm gonna try to use, you know, all the exercises we talked about. So the pivoting of the major scale, diatonic sevenths, the but power lick, half whole diminished scale. Maybe I'll put some pentatonic lines and fourth voicings if there's an opportunity to do so. But essentially the point is just to take a tune you've been working on, or if you're learning a new song, and try to implement it in real time